this evening, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the study that I've been doing in my second period social studies class. The research question that I had was, how does implementing a writing-centered approach in a social studies instruction affect students' on-task behavior and writing development? So the idea is, if I'm adding more writing-centered approaches to my social studies instruction, that the kids are spending less time off track and their writing is becoming better quality writing. This came about because in middle school, obviously they have a lot of things on their mind, and school is not always one of them. And when they are in classes with their friends, a lot of times they try to do everything they can to talk to their friends instead of do their work. So there are various intense writing approaches that I implemented throughout a 3-week period, and I tallied the participants' reactions to that and monitored them very closely to tell the difference, if there was a difference between before implementation and after. So my theoretical framework was around cognitivism. If you don't know what that is, it focuses on mental processes. So how people perceive, think, remember, learn, solve problems, and then direct their attention to one stimulus other than the other. So cognitivism is, why are they looking at this instead of this? And that's kind of where I got, why are they, spending more time looking at their friends, obviously, because they're in middle school and they're 12 and that's what they want to do, versus what we can do to keep them focused on something else and more engaged. And I thought that writing is a perfect way to do that, because what makes you more engaged than reading and writing? So my research behind this, I'm going to just kind of quote a little bit from the researches that I've done. Research has shown that lower student engagement is associated with a variety of negative outcomes, including delinquency, violence, teen pregnancy, substance abuse, and school dropout. The changing environment in a classroom can change the classroom behavior. So by just changing the elements of the classroom and making it more focused on literacy and writing, that their whole approach to the class will change. Process writing instruction improves the quality of students' writing. Planning, revising, paragraph and sentence construction, word processing, and studying models of good writing are all things in which were part of my writing approach. So I taught a lot of the process writing and focused on that. Learning concepts through social sharing, and only after this sharing can be processed, can be internalized and used independently. So we did a lot of peer review, and by doing that, they take more ownership of their work and internalize what they're doing and want to do better at it. So there's also studies behind how strong teacher practices can change their cognitive abilities. So adding those real strong concepts and strategies will help them become more successful. And the fact that with an increase in writing, there is an increase in student learning and engagement. So just by having them writing, they're automatically going to be more engaged and learn. As a behavior management strategy for students with disruptive behavior, so I looked a lot about like CPI classes or class pass intervention. That's something that we have here at our school. So I did a lot of research as to what are some strategies that they do in pass to make their kids more successful, and how can I alternate that into use that into my class. And then approaches to learning significant and moderate the effect of child classroom quality. And then I just focused on a lot of different approaches that would help the quality of the writing. Okay, so one thing that I did, my methodology was I used both quantitative and qualitative data. My qualitative data was I took tallies before and after off-task behavior. So I focused on 10 students in my second period social studies class. And 2 days before implementation, I tallied every time they were off task. And then I spent 2.5 weeks implementing this, adding more writing approaches, and then after, I then took tallies again. So the results to that were the mean or the average of my tally marks for pre-implementation was a 5.9, and then post-implementation was a 3.1. So they did go down to about 2%, or that's probably not a percent, like 2 points. Yes. So they did go down in tally, so that was a positive change. For my qualitative data, the first thing that I did was I had 2 open-ended questions. And my first question was, and I asked the kids this, and the kids responded to this through Google Forms. And I said, how does off-task behavior affect the quality of your work? So I just asked them directly what they thought. I had a lot of different answers. Some themes that I had for the data was that they knew that they were being distracting. They knew that when they were distracted that their work wasn't being done. They knew that the quality of their work was being affected. And they had a lot to say about how the teachers and parents had to get involved. They knew that if they weren't getting their work done, then someone would be on them at all times. So those are things that they mentioned. Then after, my second one was, do you think the amount of disruptive behavior in class would decrease if you were more engaged in writing activities? So then I asked, okay, well, do you think that if I'm having you write more, do you think that there will be a change? And I had mixed. Some said more work, less disruptions. But then there were others that said, no, we're going to be more off task because you're giving us more work and we don't like that. So, but I think, they were just trying to be smart for those sorts of things like that. They suggested to make assignments longer, and that they did believe that engagement prevails. So if they are more engaged, then they're less likely to talk to their friends, and they acknowledge that they were disruptive. So after implementation, I gave them a survey. So instead of asking them the same questions, I said a survey, and it could either do 5, there was a drastic change, or 1, it stayed the same based on the same questions that I asked. And that's where you'll see here. So the blue was the first question and the changes in the first question. So a lot of them, they all believe that it did get a little bit better, but the second question is really where they thought that the biggest change was. And again, the second question was, do you think the amount of disruptive behavior in class would decrease if you were more engaged in activities? So they saw themselves being more engaged, and I think that helped them with changing their mind and thinking that there was a drastic change. So implications of this study include that because of using the tallying, I will probably continue to do that, to tally, just to make sure that what I'm doing is still being effective. And and I didn't even mention the rubric, did I? So for the quality of writing, I graded their writing using a rubric pre-implementation and a rubric post-implementation. So their mean of their rubric, and it was just a 1 to 4 rubric, like there was, your clarity, your grammar mechanics, just a normal quality rubric. And for their and it goes from 1 to 4. So their pre-implementation, their mean was a 2.6, and their post-implementation was a 3.9. So it did go up almost 2 points. So although it doesn't seem like a whole lot from it being a range from 1 to 4, it was a pretty significant change. Then, so the results were evident but not significant for the rubric. I think that a lot of that has to do with how much time I had. I only had 3 weeks. So to make a drastic change in the quality of the writing, I think it's really hard to achieve in 3 weeks, but we did, move up a little bit, and that was the goal. So, pre-data questions. Most participants believe that with this implementation would come change, whereas some thought there would be no change. So in the future, I hope that as we continue to do this and as I continue to add these writing approaches, that they will see that there can be a change. And for the post-data survey, participants were able to see the change in behavior once the approach was implemented and could respond to the survey with confidence in their answers. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I do see that. Yes.
Do you find that one writing strategy works better than the writing strategy?
Yes. The one that worked the best, I think, was the peer writing, because they were able to, and I paired them very purposefully. I put them with people who I knew had the same kind of writing abilities as them, so they could really say, you know, these are the things that you could work on. And and here I think it's really important to ability group, because when there's lower kids, they really can't push those higher kids who have really high quality writing. They just don't know how to make those kind of corrections. So to be able to group them by ability grouping, which is not usually what they're doing, they're not usually ability grouped, that kind of gives them the support that they need to grow and get stronger.
Did you predict results, or did the students predict results, which were a surprise?
Well, a lot of them predicted that there would not be a big change, but based on this red line here, they then went back and they were surprised by the results. So, I did predict that they'd get better. I hope with time and progress that things would get better. But, I think, again, if I had more time, that there would be more of a significant